We're doing shooting guards today, very similar to the point guard list. Had to have played 41 games. We're looking at the lineups that people played in. So some guys who in your mind might be a shooting guard might not be. They might be in a different spot. For example, Anthony Edwards, he's a small forward. Bradley Beal, he was injured. So we said Jordan Poole was the first honorable mention at number 11. We get right into the list here. At number 10, I've seen y'all throw some names out. My number 10 guy is Terry Rozier, to believe it or not. So Scary Terry himself is my number 10 shooting guard based off of last year. I love what I saw from him last year and this year, but specifically this year. I finally feel like he's playing his real designated position at the shooting guard. I feel like when he was in Boston, they were trying to force him to be a point guard. That's just not for him. He's not a playmaker. He's a bucket getter. His numbers, when you look at his numbers and him and Jordan Poole's numbers, and this is why I gave him the nod over Poole. When you look at their numbers, they're very similar, but Jordan Poole had the benefit of playing with better talent. So when you look at the type of shots that Rozier was getting versus the type of shots that Poole was getting, Poole was a lot more open on a lot of his stuff. Whereas Rozier wasn't as open. But what I was saying was Terry Rozier gets the nod over Jordan Poole because to me at least, Jordan Poole, we all know, played on the Warriors team that had a lot of talent, playing with Steph Curry, playing with Wiggins, playing with Draymond, especially before he got injured. Amazing playmaking and defense coming from Draymond Green. And I think some of the shot selection to me that Jordan Poole was able to get were way more open than what Terry was able to get, and they had very similar numbers. So that's the little nod for me, at least. At number 9, I have a guy who, let me also say just off the rip, numbers, I'll say 9 through 11 were tough for me, like real tough for me, really, really close. So like I said, if you got Poole over Terry, I'm not mad at you. 9 through 11 were very, very close. And the number 9 guy, I'm giving a slight nod over Terry Rozier, and that is, drum roll, not really, but drum roll, I'm going with Tyrese Maxey. Now, I struggled with this, and like I said, it was very close with some of these guys. For me, Tyrese Maxey is number 9 because he shouldered a lot of offensive load for the Sixers in the beginning of the season when they didn't have Ben Simmons. He did a lot for that team. He stepped up a lot. In my mind, he really could have been most improved. I'm not mad at the fact that, I am mad at the fact that Ja got it. I wish somebody else on our list we'll talk about later got it. But Tyrese did a lot for this team. He's honestly one of the best, if not the best, three-point shooter on this list. If you look at his percentages and volume, he shoots over 40% from everywhere, from the corner, from above the break, from pull-ups, from catch and shoots, from the wing. He is a bona fide three-point shooter, and he really solidified that this season. And then once the Sixers acquired James Harden in the trade, Tyrese's performance only got better because James Harden is an amazing playmaker, and Tyrese was able to get out on the break and play very well in transition. Tyrese Maxey's transition game is, I don't want to use the word underrated because I think everybody realizes how good it is, but it is very, very good. Next up, number 8, Desmond Bane. So for me, I'm going with Desmond Bane to number 8 because, one, I love his two-way play. Absolutely love his two-way play. The shooting is there. The defense is there. He's becoming a leader for the Memphis Grizzlies team. He's a guy who can get to his spots. He's an undersized too. He's only 6'5". Not necessarily undersized, but he's not like a 6'6" too. And he's a positive defender. And the reason I have him over Maxey, the main reason I have him over Maxey, because I think they're very comparable, is one, the two-way play. But Desmond Bane was a big reason as why the Memphis Grizzlies kept winning games when Ja missed about 20-plus games this season. The Grizzlies won most of those games, and Desmond Bane was a big part of that. And he was able to showcase some of his ability without Ja on the floor, being the primary ball handler at times, and really helping lead this Memphis Grizzlies team. Bane had a really, really good season, and I think he's going to be a guy who stays in the top 10 next year, even with guys like Bradley Beal coming back. I can see Desmond Bane, solidifying his spot as a top 10 shooting guard in the league for a couple more years. I'm going to go right into it. You could switch Bane with who my 7th guy is, and obviously that is Tyler Herro. So at the 7th spot, I have Tyler Herro. And the reason I have Tyler Herro at 7 is, while, yes, if you look at some of the advanced stats, some of the advanced numbers, Bane might have the edge on some of those numbers. But when I take that into some context of while yes, Bane showed up and stepped up a lot once Ja was out, Bane doesn't have to do that every night for the Memphis Grizzlies to be good. They have, at least offensively, for the Memphis Grizzlies to be good, because Ja also brings so much. When it comes to the Miami Heat, in my opinion, they need every point of Tyler Herro's 20 every single night for them to have an opportunity to win games. And it's not that the Miami Heat are bad by any means, but just how their offense is set up. Outside of Jimmy Butler, there's not like a go-to number 2 offensively outside of Tyler Herro. It's, in theory, I feel like it should be Bam, but sometimes Bam can be iffy offensively, and sometimes I think it's harder for a big, if you're not an elite big offensively, to really take over offensively and really have a stamp on the game. He can from time to time, but not consistently. For me, Tyler Herro is their second most important player on the offensive side of the ball. And the numbers are there for him as well. That's why he makes my number 7 spot in this top 10 list. Next on the list, I think we have a guy who kind of separates is a tough word. Separates the list. So the guys I just mentioned, Tyler Herro, Desmond Bane, Tyrese Maxey, Terry Rozier, similar in terms of what their current production level is, what they give to their teams. You could do a lot of interchanging, in my mind, out of that 7 to 10 spot. The next guy at number 6, I think he solidified himself in the number 6. I don't really see much of an argument to move another guy over him that I've already mentioned. At number 6, I'm going with CJ McCollum. CJ had a really good year this year. I don't know how much the Pelicans y'all watched. He did a lot for the Portland Trail Blazers, especially for the beginning of the season, when Dame was still there. CJ was a shooting guard. Then Dame goes down. They pull up Anthony. And the way I categorize the Portland Trail Blazers when that happened, Anthony was the 1, CJ was still the 2. Then when he goes to the Pelicans, he did have a lot of ball handling responsibilities, but to me, he was still the 2 guard. What I do think we'll see going into next year is CJ might be the point guard for the Pelicans. I think he has that. I think he has that in him. Like, I think he has the ability to do that. But I don't think he was, to me at least, he wasn't point guard this year. But I do see a world where he could be point guard going into the next season. At number 5, I have a low-key one of my favorite guys at number 5. You can call it some bias, but I really think he had a really good year. I think the way he plays is, I'll say, unique. The only argument I would say to maybe move around is I could see the argument of having CJ over him, but everybody else on this list, I think he's better than. At number 5, I'm going at my guy SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The shooting was a little down this year. I'll give you that. The shooting was definitely a little down this year. He went from like a 40, I want to say he was at 40 or very close to 40 last year. He was at 40 last year to 30 this year. A lot of that came down to he changed his jump shot a lot. And I think it messed him up in terms of his shooting ability. But his ability to get to the rim is still, in my mind, underrated, considering he's not necessarily a fast guard. He's just a guard who knows how to get to his spots, use his body to get to the rim, and he's very, very crafty around the rim. Still young in the league. He's under 25 years old. I like what the Thunder are building around. I won't necessarily say around him, but in conjunction with him there. Yeah, I like him at number 5. At number 4, I got my guy from Chicago, playing in Chicago right now, Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine had a great season. Zach LaVine is a great shooter. He can shoot from anywhere on the court if he wants to. Zach LaVine did a great job of playing alongside a guy who had a career season in DeMar DeRozan. DeMar came in for, I want to say he was second team All-NBA this past season, and Zach LaVine adjusted well to going from a guy who's used to having the ball in his hands all the time in these past couple of years with the Bulls to being able to share the court and share the ball with DeMar, and the fact that DeMar is not a guy who's spacing the floor. Zach was able to be a floor spacer for DeMar and to let DeMar go to work. I love DeMar's ability to get to the rim. Like I said, I love his shooting. The mid-range is there for him a little bit. Zach is just a guy who knows how to get his spots, and I think the Bulls are in good hands with Zach and DeMar at the helm. I like him a lot here. And the only reason I'm going to talk about the next guy, the only reason the next guy is over him is because I do value some two-way play. I'm not saying Zach is a complete L on defense, but he's not necessarily a positive either. He's there. You feel me? His athleticism saves him a little bit. Number 3 on the list, I alluded to him before when I said the reason I have him over Zach LaVine, he does a lot of things similar to Zach. He shares the floor with a guy who had another amazing year, but he was able to hold his own and do a lot of great things as well. But he also plays defense, and I like two-way play. At number 3, I got Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown had a great season. Had an absolutely great season. People still to this day, and I think I'm off it. I think people still to this day make the argument that Jaylen Brown's better than Jason Tatum. I think I'm firmly ready to put 10 toes down and saying Tatum's the better of the two. That's just me. I can hear the arguments. I'm not mad at them and the reason I can hear the arguments because on any given night he can be the better player. A lot of people's eyes were awoken to how good of a player Jaylen Brown was because of the finals run they had. Me personally, I knew Jaylen Brown wasn't him from the beginning. But a lot of people realized how good he was from the finals run that they went on and how well he performed in those NBA finals. You'd have JB over Mitchell. I can see it, Rio. The reason I don't is because Mitchell carries way more for his team than Jaylen Brown does, like on the offensive side of the ball. I think because both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are so talented, they have the ability to play off of each other in a almost like a flow state. But to me, Donovan Mitchell carries so much of his offense. He's led that Utah Jazz team to top 10 offenses these last couple of seasons. And when he's not on the court for the Utah Jazz, that offense is ugly and does not look good at all. I like him a lot, right? Obviously. And since we're talking about him, cat's out of the bag. My number 2 guard in the NBA is Donovan Mitchell. To me, he is, and I went back and forth on this a lot between Donovan Mitchell and obviously Devin Booker's at my number 1. We'll talk about him in a little bit. My initial list, and I don't know if y'all can see it. I told y'all I'll write this stuff down. The initial list, y'all might not be able to see that. Donovan is number 1 in the initial list. And then I had Booker 2. But I'm telling y'all, I went back and forth over this for a while because I really do value what Donovan Mitchell brings to the Utah Jazz organization. I really do value what Donovan Mitchell does on the offensive side of the ball. The playmaking is there for his team. When you look at, if you look at just his assist numbers, it only going to say like 4 or 5 assists. I know it ain't crazy. But when you watch his game, the playmaking and the passing has gotten better year after year. And it really is just very similar to, and it's not the same, don't gas this, what I'm about to say, please, but very similar to how the Nuggets this past season were trash offensively when Jokic wasn't on the floor. The Utah Jazz are trash when Donovan Mitchell isn't on the floor because he's such an offensive engine for this team. And then number 1, obviously, of course, you got to go with my guy who I was going back and forth with on this. Devin Booker's number 1. Devin Booker has proven himself to be the number 1 shooting guard in the NBA. To me, I will admit it was very close between him and Donovan Mitchell. But Devin Booker's ability to get to his spots, his ability to score at all 3 levels, he doesn't get to the rim at the clip that Donovan Mitchell does, but when he does get to the rim, he does finish well and respectably. But the mid-range, as we all know, is where Devin Booker lives and thrives. His clutch play was there this season for the Phoenix Suns. He had a really, really good season. I had this conversation with Suns Geek a couple weeks ago when we did our Suns preview of does Devin Booker have another level? I'm really curious to see what he can do this season. And considering he's only 25 years old, he'll be turning 26 in October. I think he could. I'm just very curious to what that looks like. But to me, Devin Booker's hands down the best shooting guard in the league. So one last breakdown so y'all can see it and y'all can see what the full list is and kind of see my thought process on some of these to give you a little half behind the scenes action. So the final list is Devin Booker at the 1, Donovan Mitchell at 2, Jaylen Brown at 3, Zach LaVine, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, CJ McCollum, Tyler Herro, Desmond Bane, Tyrese Maxey, Terry Rozier. And it's very similar to what my handwritten list was when I wrote it down a couple days ago.